Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 188. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is Monday the 13th of the 2nd, 2023, and we're running a bit late. We are running a bit late. It is 10:11 p.m. and usually I'm supposed to be saying all of this around 9:30 p.m. So you can get an idea. We aren't exactly on the ideal of time, but time is a construct, they say. Time is a construct, The universe isn't divided into seconds, minutes, and hours. Those are concepts that we decided on our own. Those are measurements that we created. So what is time? What is 10 o'clock? What is 11 o'clock? What is 9 o'clock? Just a construct. All right, folks. Thank you for being here. Trini time, says Mr. Moisty. Appreciate it. I wouldn't say Trini time in it because it's not that it's Trini time. It's understanding that there is nothing really such as time. You don't have to write within the lines. Never mind me. Be on time for your appointments. And ignore what I'm saying there. We're starting talking this evening about our police service. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And the police service comes in for a lot of licks and a lot of highlight because Trinidad and Tobago has a serious violent crime problem, and violent crime tends to get people really antsy really quickly. When people see macabre scenes of brutality between one human to another, it tends to scare people. That tends to scare people, and they're looking for someone to blame. They're looking for someone to help, and the police are generally the first in line for that. Now, there's a very interesting story coming out of the TTPS on this weekend about a bit of news that occurred last year, and we're now hearing some of what came of it, what is coming out of it. Let's jump into this article and see what they say. Munilal, where are the missing bullets? Legal action will be taken against the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, which cannot account for 500 bullets missing from their possession, as this is another national crisis. Opposition Member of Parliament for Oropouchis, Dr. Rudal Munilal, said the TTPS was in contempt of a court order and need to explain where the ammunition went. Commissioner of Police Erla Christopher has ordered an investigation into the missing ammunition that was seized by the TTPS from illegal firearms dealer last year, October. Munilal said this was a dangerous and alarming situation, as 500 missing bullets could potentially mean 500 deaths and 500 shootings. Speaking at the opposition's press briefing, Munilal said when the officers took the ammunition for safekeeping and for their books inspection, it was listed exactly how many were taken, which were some 1,130 rounds of 9mm ammunition, as well as weapons. But 1 month later, when attorneys representing the company wrote the police and inquired about the seized ammunition and weapons when it could be returned, there was no response. Filing for judicial review in December, Dr. Munilal said an injunction was heard on January 24th, 2023. The police were ordered to return the ammunition and weapons to the company by our justice. But only 630 rounds of ammunition were returned, which left 500 rounds missing. Hinting at the file from the Vindra Naipaul Coolman case that went missing from the Solicitor General office, Dr. Munilal said 500 rounds of ammunition not returned pursuant to a court order. It becomes now more of a mystery. In this country, as you know, we have had a disease of missing file. Now we have a disease of missing ammunition. Good evening, Scafty. He said the police have not sought to amend the order or vary the order, which means the order still stands. If that stands, that means the police is in contempt of the court. Based on the communication with the company, police initially said they could not find the missing ammunition, but afterwards stated that they could have miscalculated how many were seized, Dr. Munilal said. You're hearing that? The police at first, they said, well, maybe maybe we lost some, we're looking for it. And then they said, no, you know what? We just remembered. Actually, we miscalculated. When we first took the ammunition from you, we counted 1,130, but really it wasn't that. We double counted. We miscalculated. I'm not sure how such things happen when you're counting ammunition like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an ammunition expert. I don't go out there on a regular counting bullets. So maybe bullets have a tendency to getting stuck to each other. Like the new polymer money, the new plastic polymer money that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago, sometimes they stick to each other. So, if you're counting out bills, you could double count one sometimes. So maybe that's what happens with ammunition and bullets. Sometimes when you're counting bullets and ammunition, maybe sometimes they kind of stick up together, so you're not really sure. Sometimes you double count it and that kind of thing. So the police made a mistake and may have double counted the ammunition. Yeah. Dr. Munilal went on. Now what happened? The police have to go back to SEA classes to try and get mathematics correct. How could you miscalculate 500 rounds of ammunition? 500 rounds of ammunition cannot be found, and this is a national crisis upon us again. And Mrs. Harewood Christopher needs to get cracking to investigate this. Now, please don't call retired Justice Stanley John to investigate this now, added Munilal. And if it's not missing, then return it today, as you ought to have returned it before. Now, Miss Erla Christopher, Mrs. Erla Christopher, she jumped in one time. Erla orders missing ammo probe. 500 bullets. Cop seized from legal gun dealer disappears, and the police commissioner, Erla Harewood Christopher, has ordered an immediate investigation into the disappearance of some 500 bullets police had seized from a legal gun dealer. Now, I do some teaching. Literature is one of my favored subjects. I like the English language, teaching it and trying to understand it sometimes. Words and meaning. What we used to call that in primary school, when you go out there, you have a class to learn new words. Vocabulary, I believe, was that class. You learn the words and meaning. Immediately. When you hear the word immediately gives you the impression that as soon as something happened, right following from that, the next thing happened. That's what immediately means. So if I am going to hug up my daughter immediately after I finish this live, that means as soon as I hit off, I find my baby and I give her a nice hug. That's immediately. Now, if she ordered an immediate investigation into this, when I look back on this, the bullets have been missing. The dealer requested his ammunition back since last year. They returned it with the wrong number since last year. If it's an immediate investigation, wouldn't that have been launched since last year? Now, granted, Miss Erla is recent on the job, so she wasn't the permanent commissioner last year, but it's still not really immediate. Immediately as she found out about it, that could be a different statement, but it's not really immediate because this has been going on for some time. The top cop told TV6 that the matter is now engaging the attention of the Professional Standards Bureau. But listen to this. In an immediate response yesterday, wife of the dealer, attorney Nairi Alfonso, said it was ludicrous as the very PSB, Professional Standards Bureau, officers are the ones who seized the weapons and ammunitions, and therefore this is a case of himself investigating himself. The Bureau, Professional Standards Bureau, was the office that seized the weapons and ammunition. the ammunition that disappeared. And now the commissioner is saying, here's what we'll do. Here's how we'll solve this. She reminds me of another female leader we had in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember a certain female political leader, a female prime minister. I'm not saying which one. You'd have to guess which one I'm talking about. A certain female prime minister had some allegations brought to her attention about her attorney general, about some corrupt practices of her attorney general. I believe it was a woman inside of one of those offices brought the suspicions to her way back earlier, a while ago, and she took those suspicions about corruption in the office of the attorney general and handed it over to the attorney general to investigate. With the whistleblower's report saying no, the whistleblower became revealed to the person she was blowing the whistle on. This kind of seems down that line. PSB does investigate, police not so. Yes, they do. We've only had one female prime minister. Really? Oh, so that would make it a lot easier to guess. PSB does investigate, police not so. Yes, that is part of the scope of the Police Standards Bureau. Of the Professional Standards Bureau, sorry. They do investigate police, but that's not their only scope. So I suppose the general investigations of the licenses for firearms would have been under their scope too. So now in this case though, granted that the Professional Standards Bureau is the organization in charge of doing this investigation, usually if it is that organization where the discrepancy was found, come on, you can't really tell me it's a reasonable position to put them to investigate it also. That just doesn't sound sensible. It doesn't seem like, you're being serious about investigating this thing. The wife of the dealer went on. The officers who came to my business and nested in it for 3 weeks shut down my entire business and continue to keep it shut down by taking away all of my computers, books, and registers. That entity that is responsible for the loss of the ammunition is going to investigate the very loss of the ammunition. I living in La La Land. What they say, Trinidad is not a real place. I am beginning to believe it. Alfonso said every time she asked an officer where they were from, they said PSB. She said legal documents were served on PSB officers. The people in charge of the exercise that we have challenged in court as being illegal, arbitrary, oppressive, breaching my constitutional rights are the same people who investigate. If the St. Joseph police station loses a firearm, I don't think they will tell the people in the St. Joseph police station to investigate the loss of the firearms, she added. She said the police commissioner has been served with a penal notice, which means the police have 7 days to purge their contempt of the court order, which states that the ammunition must be returned. Alfonso said the police indicated that they miscounted the ammunition, which is possible as this was almost, which is impossible, sorry, as this was almost half of the amount seized. The fact that someone said they miscounted the ammunition, I think that makes the thing look more suspicious. Because do you really believe that you miscounted the ammunition? Or is that an excuse that was created? And if you created an excuse, do you know where the real ammunition went? Like anyone whoever it was, similar with the Solicitor General's office, whoever it was that came up with the file and refound the file wherever it was found behind whose ever desk, whoever that person is, that's suspect number one. Similarly, whoever it was in this case is insisting that they miscounted the ammunition, that's suspect number one. Drag that one in for questioning. Who was there when you were counting? How did this miscounting occur? What was the process of counting? Where did you put the bullets after you counted it? Because if you're saying you miscounted, then you know what happened to the extras. That's what you're trying to tell me. you miscounted 500 bullets. Out of 1,000, you miscounted 500. All right, okay. That is scary about the incompetence of the police. If you're saying that you're able to miscount 500 bullets, that's a scary level of incompetence to the people who are supposed to be the only real people handling firearms in this country. The police are supposed to be the real firearm professionals in this country, and they don't know how to count bullets, apparently. She added that they have written to the police commissioner and identified the company's grave and deep concern that not only 500 rounds of ammunition are not accounted for, but there were 500 rounds of high-powered ammunition. I think this even further thickens the mystery, especially noting that they thought was 15 bucks but was 25. Okay, I could see that one. I could see that one. They thought it was a 50 bucks but it was only 25. So here's what would have to happen there though, Richard Glubman. They're doing, bear in mind, they're doing an investigation into a firearms dealer. So they're checking to make sure that the man's records are correct. It's basically like an audit. So you're telling me the police are doing an audit of a firearms dealer. They're doing an audit of a firearms dealer and they're counting the boxes of ammunition without opening to check the boxes of ammunition. So the ambassador says could be they double counted. That's another possibility, but it's not that they're missing 500 rounds of ammunition while it was exactly 1,000. The exact number is 1,130. So if they double counted, well, they still double counted with 130 less. So there are still problems to the double count narrative. It's not exactly double. It's around double, but it's not exactly double. So something still doesn't add up. Richard Glubman says they didn't want to break the seal on the box. Since when? For one, the firearms dealer is complaining that the Police Standards Bureau overstayed their welcome and acted like they own the police. And if you ever got something back from customs or the police or any one of those things, have you ever seen them afraid to open a seal? Anyone out here doing any kind of shipping, have you ever seen a Trinidad official afraid to break any seal? There is no seal they are afraid to break, sir. None, not one. Unless you have big money and you pass big money, then no one watches any seals. No one even watches the containers. Then they pass the container through the scanners that don't work if you have enough money. The person was writing a phone number and mix up the number on the paper. That is it. That's the one. Can you sing, Trigger? That's the one. It was a phone number. So when they got it and the person was counting, right at the same time someone came in to make a police report and they were giving a phone number and they were trying to write down the number while they were writing down the number that they called that they counted the bullets, and they mixed up the two numbers. That had to be what happened, man. That had to be what happened. Alfonso said her husband's business was shut down for months and it took legal action for the police to return seized weapons and ammunition and the company's computers, etc. Like, I remember when this happened, and this still perplexes me. The focus, it seems, that is so heavily on the legal firearms in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I'm not saying that there can't be some corruption inside of the whole legal firearms business. I don't doubt that. But they released the numbers. There were 4 murders over 4 years with legal firearms. what would be the reason that you would send all of these officers to a legal firearm dealer, seize his merchandise, refuse to give it? Like, what's the purpose? What's the idea behind this? And while you're doing this, all of the gangs, all of the numbered gangs in Trinidad, when I'm scrolling social media and trying to, decipher the gangs and things, it's like every number 0 to 10. I don't think there's a 10. 0 to 9. All of them, there's a gang for each one. All of them out here shooting 5.56 out of their AR-15s and AK-47s, and the police are out there shutting down legal firearm dealers. You must understand that there seems to be a disconnect. There seems to be a disconnect. The kind of seriousness you treat this legal firearm dealer with, people are expecting, okay, well, there must be a pipeline from these legal firearm dealers to the streets. But then when you actually get down, when they say the information themselves, and this is the information that the officers said themselves, they said that the weapons that are being used on the streets aren't coming from legal firearm purchases. No, they're coming from the United States, shipped into the country through the port. They said that. Richard Glubman says, suppose it's the legal dealers that's supplying the gangs. Well, that's not what the police said. The police themselves said it was shipments originating from the United States. They said that. Am I going crazy here? I read the news every night. The last commissioner, unless he was lying to us, he was saying that much of the guns flooding the country now are coming from shipments in the United States through our legal ports. And it makes sense because we have been seeing over the past couple of years, every now and again, they would search a shipment in some warehouse. Strangely enough, it's regularly one particular warehouse. Let me not get into that matter. Regularly, it's a certain warehouse, and regularly they find weapons inside of these warehouses. It's not like they're finding the weapons, they're finding some weird pipeline where they raid somewhere, they seize weapons and ammunition, and they trace it back to a legal firearm dealer. I have never, not once, not even once, not once have I ever heard an accusation like that, where they have that the legal firearm users, they were able to trace a weapon found on a criminal back to them. I haven't heard that. And I think it's in the best interest of legal firearm dealers to ensure that never happens. That's not in their best interest. I don't think they'll be able to make enough money to cover the fallout that would happen if even one occurrence of that happens. Can Sig Trigger says, yes, all our guns come through illegal ports, but who is the consignee? I don't know, sir. I am not a customs officer. I would not know that. But yeah, so it just seems disproportionate to me that you would shut down a legal firearms dealer for so. Like, what's the purpose of this? Are you victimizing the man you don't like? Unrelated, but you're going, no, I'm not. Is it just that you don't like the man? Is it just that the police have a negative view towards anyone in the legal firearms business in the country? Is it something personal? Like, because it logically it just doesn't seem to bear out to me. It really doesn't seem to bear out. And the fact that it's high powered ammunition missing, and a lot of the guns being used right now are high-powered rifles, it seems to lean into each other too. It seems to lean into each other. And you could wonder about this. If in the police going out there to say, they're protecting and serving, they're going out there to protect the country. They seized weapons and ammunition from a legal dealer, to protect the country. And then seizing weapons from them, they supply the weapons to the criminals. Because all the jokes we are making about where the missing 500 bullets could have gone, very likely, if the bullets are missing, it's not like a police officer would have seized them to use them in the line of duty. It's not like a police officer would have seized them for personal use home. Very likely, the most likely possibility, Richard Glubman says it's disproportionate, the number of firearms dealers to legal firearm owners. So you're saying is the police that's supplying the gangs. I am not saying that. I am not saying that at all. But I'm saying it's suspicious. Because you seize weapons from a legal dealer, 500 high-powered ammunition 500 rounds of high-powered ammunition goes missing. Where does that go? Where do you think that goes? I don't think they're selling that to another legal firearms dealer. Legal firearms dealers could bring in their own ammunition. They don't need to buy black market ammunition from the police. If you are in the right circles, and this is what kind of annoys me sometimes when these accusations are brought up, and sometimes you see police officers in too heavy of a denial about it. Because if you are in the right circles, you would know that the sale of ammunition and guns by police officers in Trinidad and Tobago is not an unheard of thing. I can assure you right now, there are several people in Trinidad and Tobago with pictures on their phones sent to them by police officers showing weapons and ammunition for sale. That is something that occurs in Trinidad and Tobago. So, if we're looking at this, we have legal firearm dealer, we have the police. They're telling us that for some reason we should be very worried about the legal firearm dealers. But not once has anything from the legal firearm dealers been seen on a crime scene. While we find TTPS wrongs on crime scenes, when the TTPS seizes bullets, they disappear. If I am to be worried about someone for the security of my country, and these are my two options: legal firearms dealers and the police service. Looking at the facts that present themselves, and yes, as was said last Friday, of course it's conjecture. Of course we're trying to figure things out based on the information that we have presented. Of course it's not 100% for sure what happens, but based on the information that we have. And if you have to trust two groups with weapons in Trinidad and Tobago, legal firearms dealers or the TTPS, which group would it be? Nick Sobers brings up Inshan suing Croker. Yes, I saw that. I think that's all part of the theater of Trinidad and Tobago, if I'm being honest. I think it's a bit silly, the entire thing. It is a bit silly. I am no fan of Croker. I'm no fan of Croker's music. I do not like Croker's calypsos. I'll say it in big. Richard Glubman, I'm not asking based on outside information. I'm asking based on the information that is presented. Who would you trust? If based on that information you trust the TTPS, then I worry about your skills of observation and making decisions. But yes, I don't like Croker's calypsos. I find he forces the calypsos. I don't like the idea of trying to fit 20 words into a line where the rhythm is meant to fit 4 words. I hate that idea. It doesn't sound good. It isn't good art. It isn't good skill. I don't like it. My personal view. Personally, as a musician, I don't like his style. His content, by and large, I don't care for it. I don't even listen to much of it to know all of his content. But neither do I like all of what Mr. Ishmael says. Neither do I like that. To me, it's like two sides of the same coin fighting each other. Two men who regularly say abrasive, purposefully explosive things, and surprise, they're facing each other with it now. So no surprise with that. I don't know where that court case is going to go. I somehow highly doubt that a Trinidadian judge is going to rule a calypso to be defamation. I highly doubt that. I think, and I don't think Mr. Ishmael even believes that he stands a high chance of winning that. I don't think he thinks that. I think it's a matter of going through it, the threat. And kind of a whole thing about the posturing. I have enough money to show you. If you call my name too bad and offside, I will sue you and I will go through with the threat. And I think that's more to do with it, because I don't even think that he personally believes that he's really going to win that case so easily. I don't think so, because I don't see a Trinidadian judge ruling that a Calypsonian slandered someone or there was defamation in a Calypso from a stage like that, because that would open up a whole can of worms. The whole idea of freedom of speech. You know, as I'm talking about that freedom business, I saw a very interesting article. Someone is suing the state. An activist is threatening to sue the state over some laws. This is an interesting one. Activist threatens lawsuit over carnival rules. A social activist has threatened to sue the cabinet over carnival regulations that seek to outlaw singing or recital of lewd or offensive songs. And prevent revelers from indulging in immoral, lewd, and offensive behavior or gestures. Lawyers representing Barrington Skippy Thomas made the 13 in pre-action protocol letter sent on Friday. In the correspondence, Thomas's lawyer, K.L. Taklal Singh, claimed the regulations derogated from the constitutional right to freedom of expression. The wanton disregard of these provisions, as has been apparent from their selective non-application, further buttresses the conclusion that they are not restrictions which are reasonably justifiable in a democratic country that has respect for human rights. He could win it, but it's a stretch. I listened to the Calypso. The Calypso switches in between speaking about an individual, speaking about a group in general. That's why there were people who called the Calypso a racist Calypso, because several people took what he said not only as pointed as to an individual, but pointed as to a group. And that is a very easy thing to obfuscate in a lawsuit. I wasn't speaking about an individual. Is ways by all your stolen or your stolen parts. That could be a plural group you're talking about there. He didn't point at a person and said that Mr. X does this criminal activity. That's not what he said. I mean, it is up to the courts at the end of the day, but to me, looking at generally how those things go, I think he has a difficult case to prove. And even beside whether he directly made the statements, with the fact that it's in a song, so it's in that artistic expression area, and the irony of someone suing about freedom of expression while someone is suing someone else over their expression is a bit funny to me here. But this person is suing, and I read this before, that the regulations that came out for Carnival are prohibiting the recital and singing of lewd or offensive songs, and it prevents engaging in immoral, lewd, and offensive behavior. And I found that very funny when it came out, but they are suing over it now, well, threatening a lawsuit over it, because they are saying it's a constitutional right towards the freedom of expression. Now, this makes me question, if you have a freedom of expression in our constitution to behave lewdly, then how is it in our constitution that it's illegal to cuss in public? Like, if this lawsuit stands, then someone is supposed to sue for the judicial review of that cussing law, of our obscenity laws. Because if you are saying that these laws are against our freedom of expression, then you're saying obscenity is part of our freedom of expression. So then how could we have obscenity laws on a whole? Like, I think these laws are kind of extensions of the obscenity laws that we already have. We already have obscenity laws. So to me, it's either one or the other. You can't have kind of halfway of both. You can't have it halfway that, well, we can't cuss and walk nude in public, so we have obscenity laws, but we can't enforce those laws for Carnival because it's part of our freedom of expression. And to me, something seems a bit disjointed about that argument. Something doesn't quite seem linked in that argument. And where do you stand on that? That's a question I have for the chat. In the chat, where do you stand on that? Those of you in the chat, where do you stand? Do you think that freedom of expression dictates for freedom to be crude, lewd, offensive, immoral even? That all of that is under the realm of freedom of expression and it should be allowed? Or do you believe that no, being crude, lewd, and offensive is not freedom of expression and you shouldn't be allowed to do that? RL says, as Jordan Peterson says, how does your right of free expression trump my right to be offended? Okay, so in that realm, then you shouldn't have a right to be, well, you have a right to be offended, but your right to be offended should not dictate my right to my freedom of expression. So you are against those laws. You're saying that Trinidad should not have obscenity laws. We shouldn't have those lewdness and morality laws. Is that your view? I'm asking genuinely. What's the view of the chat? Do you think that our country should do away with those laws? I want to answer, but I want to see some other answers in the chat before I give my view. And because I'm not even 100% certain on which direction you go, because I do think I'll say it this way. I do think that there is a societal negative to public indecency. I do think that. I don't think that society benefits from people being publicly lewd, offensive, and immoral. I don't think society benefits from that. My problem is that it becomes a question of who judges what is lewdness. Who judges what is lewdness, what is offensive? Reeves says, I always felt like it was geared towards not impacting children. Yeah, I guess so. It is. But the problem with it is it almost always reaches to the point of defining lewdness to people. So in Trinidad and Tobago, for example, these laws are already on the books. But no one is arrested during Carnival, even though by nearly any definition, what goes on during Carnival, at least some of it would be considered lewdness. It becomes a problem of that. And then you give the power to the state to define what is lewdness and what someone could express out of themselves. So I regularly say this. I don't like the idea of our obscenity laws when it comes especially to dealing with police. I don't like that, because what we notice in Trinidad and Tobago is because of our obscenity laws, there's now an unnecessary power imbalance that creates for fictitious relationships between the police and the residents. So you'd have police coming to a situation and unloading curses onto someone. And if someone says, but how your head big so? That could be considered offensive language to a police officer and they arrest you for it. And I don't like that idea. I don't think that leads towards better society. I think if we had the opposite, where police go to a situation and the person who is in the situation is angry and they're cussing them about every single family member, I prefer that situation where the police cannot arrest that person for those words and the police just have to deal with whatever criminal or non-criminal activity happened in the situation. Separate from that, I prefer that situation. Now, I'm not saying that I prefer my country to be a cussword, obscene country. That's not what I'm saying. But if I were to make an error, to make a fault on one side, I would fault on the side where people could cuss the police instead of the police could cuss the people and you just have to shut up. And if you tell the police anything offside, they can arrest you for it. I don't like that idea. I despise the laws in our country that gives the police the position of basically being a judge. It gives the police, or I use the word outsized power. Outsized power compared to the system. So the tint laws that Trinidad had, the laws weren't regulated darkness of tint. It was that if the police can't see inside of your vehicle, it's too dark. That's too subjective. That's the police now becomes the judge of this. And we know that the police could be not necessarily always the most fair judge. RL says we do not possess the ability to determine what is obscenity and what is not. We could barely enforce property tax laws. We don't have the resources to enforce those indecency laws. And that's another thing. The idea of putting laws on the books that you are unable to enforce, I don't like that idea. I made a video about this a while back. I consider this to be question, is it only me the feed stick for? I hope so. I hope the feed only stuck for you. I'm seeing the feed still flowing, I believe. Yeah. I consider this to be a parenting lesson, a basic parenting lesson, that you don't make rules that you cannot enforce. Many parents, a fault many parents fall into is they make a rule knowing they don't have the ability or the will to enforce the rule. So when the child breaks the rule, you're not going to enforce it. So now the child becomes comfortable with breaking the rules. Oh, night sticking plenty for me too. Apologies. Let's see what's the power of the connection. They're saying connection isn't too bad, so I'm not sure what's going on here. I think I have to upgrade my speed. Upgrade the internet speed. Yeah. It's a parenting 101 lesson to me. You don't make rules that you can't enforce. You don't make rules you can't enforce. It disrupts the whole system. It makes the entire system more disorderly. You're now going to have to decide some rules are enforceable, some rules are not enforceable. So then the rules themselves are not rules. The rules are guidelines. And what you really need to figure out in this system, and that's the problem with parenting that some people have. In parenting, your children understand now this household doesn't really have a clear rule structure. The rule structure is emotion. When someone is vexed, when someone is happy, I can get away or can't get away with certain things. I kind of can't get away with certain things, and you have to work your way through that. And it's similar with Trinidad and Tobago. You have to work on the emotion of the police officer, so you know that if you could woo the police officer, if he's in a good mood. I don't think that's how rules are supposed to be in a system. That's why the other day when we were speaking, we were talking about AI, and I think AI could even have a part to play in some of these things where the rules are rules. The rules are rules. You could have like the court cases where you have the human aspect and they adjudicate what is to come out of it. But rules are rules. Make the rules plain. Make them sensible. Make them followable. And that's the key. The whole lewdness and impropriety laws and morality laws in Trinidad and Tobago, that's a strange one to me. I don't even know how they plan on prosecuting that. The problem in the lawsuit that the lawyer brought up too was that this law does more of that very same thing that I was complaining about. It gives the police a whole lot of power. A whole lot of kind of unnecessary power, because in order for you to be found guilty of this, it's a justice of the peace. So all the police needs to do is grab you up off of the street, carry you to a justice of the peace, and you could find yourself facing what was the consequence, a maximum penalty of $1,000 and up to 6 months in prison. A police and a justice of the peace, and that's it. You already locked up. Nah. I don't like that idea, and I don't think that's a beneficial idea to general Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think it is. All right, people. It's closing in on 11 o'clock. That's all I have for now on this Monday night. A late start Monday night. Are there any further questions or comments before I dive out? Let's read if there were any YouTube questions or comments. As usual, I'm streaming this live on YouTube also. Nathan Spring over there. If you are not subscribed, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Spring over on YouTube. Good videos. Head over there and subscribe. Now I'll make sure for these lives at the end of the live, make sure to go through the YouTube comments every time. So if ever you have a question that you want to make sure I see and you wonder if I'm not going to see it inside of the chat, you can head over to YouTube, drop it in the YouTube chat, and I will make sure to go through those YouTube questions after the live. So all right, any further questions or comments, or is that it? I now start my work. Was hoping you went till late tonight. Oh gosh, Reeve. Nah, bro. Not tonight. I just need the background talk. I understand it. I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean. Unfortunately, not tonight, sir. My apologies. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we might go later, seeing how that goes. I now reach myself. Shani Mike. See you tomorrow. If you want more, jump in tomorrow. Or you could play a repeat. All of these lives are on YouTube, so if you ever missed one of the lives, you could go over on YouTube, play one of the repeats, and you will hear another live there. Have you seen USA shooting down them UFOs yesterday? Yes, I spoke about that. UFOs out there. The USA, I believe it's three aircrafts were shot down. The Chinese air balloon, and then they were shooting down 2 others. Suspicious stuff. Really suspicious stuff. Closed down piece of their airspace and all of that kind of business. Are the aliens here? Or is China looking to go to war? I'll see you guys tomorrow evening, 9:30, 9:15 p.m. Until then, folks, I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you then. Peace. Hold it on. Be safe. This bit hard though. Or are they leaving? I like that one. I like that one, Canute. I like that one.